The Labyrinth of Echoes by Dr. Kristine L. Pass. Chapter 1. The Inheritance. The package was unassuming. A simple brown box, its twine frayed and loosened with age. Yet, as Calderon untied the knot, the air in the room seemed to shift, charged with an indefinable tension. The box had arrived without prelude or explanation, a final artifact of his grandmother's estate. She had always been an enigma to him, a woman of unorthodox genius and inscrutable intent. Even in death her presence lingered, a question left unanswered, a mystery waiting to be unraveled. The rest of the family had reduced her possessions to mere clutter, discarding them with unceremonious haste. Calderon alone had resisted, seeing in her eccentricity a depth they neither recognized nor understood. To him, she was a paradox, a mind steeped in artistry and philosophy, her decisions guided less by convention than by some internal compass whose logic evaded the grasp of others. When he opened the box, his breath caught. Nestled within was the violin he had only seen as a child. He remembered it vividly, though years had passed. The last time he saw it was an autumn evening that lingered in memory not for its details, but for the way it felt. Cool air brushing against warmed firelight, the faint scent of burning leaves. He had been 8, seated on his grandmother's study floor, where he was rarely allowed to enter. That night, she had invited him in, her tone conspiratorial, as though sharing a secret meant only for the two of them. She was creating a bond that was unique and unbreakable. The violin had been in her hands, its body gleaming faintly in the lamplight. The sound was otherworldly when she played, achingly beautiful, yet threaded with an unnameable melancholy. Calderon had watched, transfixed, as her bow swiftly moved across the strings. She had not explained the music or invited him to ask questions. She simply played, her eyes distant, seeing something beyond the room, beyond him. When the song ended, she smiled at him, a brief, wistful smile, and whispered, "One day, this will be yours." Now, years later, the violin was in his hands. Its craftsmanship was extraordinary, its contours exaggerated in a way that defied tradition. The varnish shimmered iridescent, reflecting light and transforming the instrument in an inner luminescence. The impossibly delicate yet robust strings seemed to hum with a resonance he could feel rather than hear. Beneath it a single sheet of parchment rested, its ink faint but precise. He immediately recognized it was his grandmother's handwriting. "Calderon, this violin now belongs to you. It is not merely an instrument, but a conduit, a vessel for echoes that transcend sound's limits. Play it with care, for its melodies hold immense power. The labyrinth awaits. It is both your challenge and your inheritance. Trust the music. It will guide you when all else fails, its influence undeniable and its guidance unwavering. Grandmother." Calderon read the note twice, then again, the words igniting an unease that coiled tightly in his chest. "The labyrinth," he murmured, testing the phrase aloud, its weight falling heavily on his ears. As a scholar of philosophy and the arts, Calderon had studied labyrinths as metaphors, symbols of spiritual journeys, intellectual quandaries, or the subconscious mind. Yet this felt neither abstract nor allegorical. His grandmother's words were direct, almost urgent. The violin held within it answers to questions he had yet to ask. He lifted the violin carefully, the wood cool beneath his fingers. The bow felt light, yet perfectly balanced as he raised it to the strings. He hesitated, his heart beating heavily in his chest. Then, with a deep breath, he drew the bow across the strings. The first note resonated deep and rich, vibrating in the air and through his body. The sound seemed to expand, filling the room with an exhilarating and unsettling intensity. As he continued to play, the air thickened, the light dimming until the room seemed to dissolve. He was no longer in his study. Around him, corridors unfolded, stretching endlessly, their walls marked with patterns that shift and flowed like living entities. The floor was a masterpiece of precision, its tessellated stones glowing softly, pulsing with an inner energy that seemed alive. Above, a pervasive silence hung, broken only by the distant echo of the violin's melody, now playing on its own. Calderon lowered the bow, his breath catching as he took in his surroundings. The labyrinth was vast and impossible, its structure defying logic. Yet he felt no fear, only an odd sense of familiarity, as if this place had always existed, waiting to be uncovered. His grandmother's words echoed in his mind. Trust the music, it will guide you. Steeling himself, Calderon gripped the violin securely and began to walk toward the distant sound.